Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Earlier in the bulletin, we told you about Foreign External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's participation at the SCO summit in Islamabad. And now we'll get you more on the statement by the External Affairs Minister at the forum. The minister said at the outset, "Let me congratulate Pakistan for its presidency of the SCO Council of Heads of Government this year. India has extended its full support for a successful presidency. We meet at a difficult time in world affairs. Two major conflicts are underway, each with its own global repercussions. The COVID pandemic has left many in the developing world deeply devastated. Disruption of various kinds, ranging from extreme climate events to supply chain uncertainties and financial volatility, are impacting growth and development. Debt is a serious concern, even as the world falls behind in achieving the SDG targets. Technology holds great promise as well as raising a new host of concerns. How should the members of the SCO respond to these challenges and excellencies? The answers lie in the charter of our organization, and I urge you to reflect on Article 1 that spells out the goals and tasks of the SCO. Let me summarize it for our collective consideration. The objective is to strengthen mutual trust, friendship, and good neighborliness. It is to develop multifaceted cooperation, especially for a regional nature. It is to be a positive force in terms of balanced growth, integration, and conflict prevention." All right, our correspondent Jessica is joining us to get us more. Jessica, good afternoon. Now, we've just shown a part of the External Affairs Minister's statement at the SCO summit in Islamabad. You get us more, get us the other highlights of the statement. In a gist, explain the statement to us.
Right, and as you pointed out, those were the few key takeaways from the SCO summit of the External Affairs Minister's remarks there. Keeping in with Article 1 of the SCO, talking about, relationships that have existed over the years. Also, it's important to point out where Dr. Jaishankar also says that globalization and rebalancing are realities that cannot be denied at this point. And given that the SCO is taking place in Pakistan, there are, of course, concerns about terrorist activities. And let's not forget that the SCO member nations, which also includes the likes of Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Iran, along with Belarus, are countries that cooperate on anti-terror networks and has also set up a mechanism and structures to that effect to counter terrorism in the region. Now, this Eurasian, the composition of these Eurasian countries, along with Pakistan, China, and Russia, have in the past as well spoken, about terrorism activities and security and peace in the region. But as you also said, Dr. Jaishankar's remarks also point towards the two conflicts taking place around the world that have certainly impacted us in more ways than one, the region of Eurasia as well. So given all of these situations in mind, it has become important to word it to an effect where there are relationships of neighborliness, which has been the focus of this entire multilateral cooperation.
Yes, Jessica, the minister also talked of how if there is a dearth of trust and also, if the friendship is missing somewhere, then introspection is required. So this is clearly a reference to the current, state of relationship between India and Pakistan. Jessica, are you there with us?
When it comes to current relationship between India and Pakistan, it has certainly been made clear from the Indian side that terror and talks won't go together. And until the time the issue of terrorism is not actioned, there will be no bilateral meeting or no cooperation in a sense where it could engage in a dialogue with Pakistan on that. Even though Dr. Jaishankar's presence in Islamabad, of course, hints at the fact that situation and multilateral arrangements like these you will continue to see participation from India, but when it comes to bilateral meetings and solving issues, those will not certainly be part of this mechanism. This mechanism is related to economic and security coordination within the Eurasian region. So given the close ambit, it is of course with that, it is with that entire purpose that India participates in the SCO since 2017.
All right. Also, Jessica, help us understand the footing of the SCO summit on the global page. How has it evolved over the years? Because it started as a successor to Shanghai 5 and now Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, when it brings together countries of the region. Help us understand what is it, what is its position on the global page?
Well, if you look at the composition of countries that have joined SCO over the years, it's not limited to membership. You have countries like Uzbekistan,
Yes.
Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and as well as Belarus, Iran, China, Pakistan, Russia. Now, these are players who have had multilateral groupings apart from, what we've seen originally as a G20 or the G7. Not saying that it's a force that is challenging those already post-Second World War order set up back then, but it is also ensuring at the same time that a grouping which requires cooperation on regional security issues and more or less economic issues will certainly come together and talk and deliberate on those issues as well. So this is what the importance of the SCO so far has been, at least from the Indian perspective. Well, other countries tend to gain what they can from it. But then you have oil-rich nations who are also part of the SCO, which makes it an interesting mix, especially when you talk about economic engagement. And in the recent past, you've seen that there have been projects that have been funded across these countries, and there have been collaborations where these projects have seen a good forward movement, and that will continue to come in as long as these member nations meet each year and talk about the regional issues and further projects that could come in. For example, China has invested heavily in many countries when it comes to infrastructure development, particularly oil-rich nations. So there has been a particular movement in that direction. But for India, it remains important to engage with Eurasian nations because this is one of the platforms which allows it to do so.
Yes, Jessica, please continue. Jessica, are you there with us? All right, our correspondent Jessica there telling us more about India's stance at the SCO summit wherein the External Affairs Minister participated today. Up on your screens, we have the highlights, the takeaways of the SCO summit, the parts of the External Affairs Minister's speech at the forum. The minister touched upon important aspects and important issues that are relevant to the world at present. He talked of how this summit is taking place at difficult times. He referred to how the world has risen out of the COVID pandemic, and now it faces two continuing wars. He also talked of how disruptions of various kinds are witnessed, be it extreme climate events or, for that matter, the supply chain uncertainties, the financial volatility, how these are impacting growth and development. The minister also talked of how it is important that the SCO spells out the goals and tasks, and also how it is important to develop multifaceted cooperation, especially of a regional nature. Jessica is there with us. Jessica, debt is an important concern, said the External Affairs Minister, but at the same time, he also pointed out other areas of cooperation which could further lead to strengthening of the summit. Get us more on that.
That's correct. And if you look at the statement from the External Affairs Minister, he has also pointed out that, and to the effect that I quote, he says that our endeavors will progress only when our commitment to charter remains firm. And that, of course, for development and growth, according to him, that requires peace, stability, and the kind of current geopolitical environment that doesn't allow it to thrive. So certainly concerns from the Indian side have been put forward. But when it comes to India and its representation at the SCO, it's particularly limited to how it can see the progress, take stock of the current initiatives that have been underway. But more importantly, the focus is, of course, also on combating terrorism. Now, they have a structure that is the SCO structure, that does look into the cooperation when it comes to anti-terror networks and also anti-terror, to prevent terror exercises as well. So we've seen those kind of cooperations in the past. But for India and also Dr. S. Jaishankar, it is important that, the firm has it is uncompromising when it comes to the three evils. And that would be terrorism, extremism, and separatism. And also, according, looking at the aspects of territorial sovereignty and integrity, also an important factor, which again comes in the ambit of security concerns for the region, maybe.
Jessica, also help us understand India's participation at the forum. The statement of the External Affairs Minister talks of Indian perspective also. How important is India's concerns and India's participation at the forum?
Right, and if you go through with the speech, and as you pointed out, India's momentum at this summit would be to an extent to have industrial cooperation, which is what Jaishankar said. That there could be more, and to enhance the competitiveness and also expanding labor markets. As I said earlier, this particular multilateral event is significantly focused on how the economic cooperation can be advanced, accompanied by security as well. So that is what it limits itself to.
Jessica, are you there with us? So that was our correspondent Jessica spelling out more on the External Affairs Minister's statement at the SCO summit in Islamabad. Up on your screens, we have the highlighters. We have the important points put forth by the by the External Affairs Minister during his speech at the SCO summit in Islamabad. He underlined the formative principles of the SCO. He also talked of the concerns of India and also how this forum is relevant given the way the world is witnessing the global challenges at present, be it the two wars that are being witnessed, be it the climate change, the supply chain uncertainties, financial irregularities. So put all this together, the External Affairs Minister summed up the relevance of the SCO summit that took place in Islamabad. Very quickly, we'll summarize the External Affairs Minister's statement at the forum. The Minister talked of how debt is in fact a serious concern and also how the world falls behind in achieving the SDG Sustainable Development Goal targets. The Minister also talked of how it is important for the member states, for the member countries in fact, to strengthen mutual trust, friendship and good neighborliness. He also talked of the forum as a whole. He said the multifaceted cooperation, especially of a regional nature, is important to thrive. He also talked of how it is to be, in fact, a positive force in terms of balanced growth, integration and conflict prevention. Now, these were the important points which were put forth by Dr. S. Jaishankar. He also put forth what are the key challenges faced by the grouping and also how SCO was committed to combating terrorism, separatism and extremism. This was highlighted by the External Affairs Minister during his speech at the SCO summit. Now, the SCO summit is a successor to the Shanghai 5. And we've seen how over the years it has evolved and more countries are a part of it now. The Minister also talked of the inception of the Charter to the situation that we face today. He talked of how tasks and goals are even more crucial in the present times. He also called for renewed commitment, sincerity towards the Charter so that the member countries can realize the benefits of cooperation and integration which the Charter envisages. The Minister also talked of the global challenges that the world is facing at present. Globalization and rebalancing are the realities, he said, which cannot be denied. He also talked of how this could be He also talked of how the region would benefit immensely if